The transformed wife. I wonder what that's about.
Hi. Satan would love to destroy your marriage.
Sweet mother of God. Hey, my name's Kevin, and welcome back to the Jesus Unfollower YouTube channel, where I talk about atheism and cringy Christian YouTubers. Today I'm talking about the transformed wife. Her name is Lori Alexander. This woman has some interesting opinions on how women should act in a marriage. Her most recent video is called, "Is Obligation Sex Toxic in Marriage? This Should Be Good." And by good, I mean hard to watch.
Obligation sex is biblical. It's in 1 Corinthians 7 about a wife not defrauding, husbands and wives not defrauding each other, and that our husband's body is ours and our body is our husband's.
Paul's letter to the Corinthians. A letter written by a man who never met Jesus, yet Christians follow his teachings more than they follow the teachings of Christ. Neat.
I'm obligated to be a keeper at home and take care of my home. I'm obligated to many things. He's obligated to work hard and provide a living for us.
It's crazy to think that these words were written 2,000 years ago and yet are supposed to still apply now. Now, it's much harder to make it on one income in the United States, but that's what she teaches. The woman should stay home and be a wife and a mother. And the husband works. That's his obligation. One income. Things were a little bit different a couple thousand years ago, wouldn't you say? But these teachings are supposed to hold up throughout the entirety of mankind, I guess.
Are we obligated to have sex with our husbands? Yes. It's our responsibility to not defraud our husbands. That's what the King James uses. Do not defraud our husbands. For some reason, they make sex in a completely different category than everything else in a marriage, but it's not. It's important to men, very important, and to many women, it's very important.
Yeah, sex is important. Sex is important to relationships. Sex is important to marriage. But my question is this: who are these men? Who are these guys who can't go a day or a couple days or even a week without sex? Who are these women marrying? Doing things to please your spouse overall is good practice, of course. But I'm like, who are these dudes? Who are the guys that are like, "Woman, please me tonight. I must have it every night"?
That has never even crossed my mind, obligation sex, even before I was a transform wife.
Obligation sex, roll out.
Think of it as pleasing your husband and wanting to do what's best for him and esteeming him higher than you esteem yourself. This is good. This pleases your husband and it pleases God and it brings glory to him. He created sex for marriage, within marriage, and it's good.
It just encourages women to stay with abusive husbands, which is not good. And she's also said that she never recommends divorce to people. Here's where the cliche communication is key comes into play, because it really is. If you're a husband or a wife, you need to communicate to your spouse your needs. She's said some pretty awful things in the past, like,
"We live our lives by doing what's right, by obeying God, even when we don't feel like it." Yes, and that even includes sex. How long does it take? One woman wrote me and asked me if her husband had raped her because she had told him she didn't want to have sex. And when she woke up in the middle of the night, he was having sex with her. So she wanted to know if that was marital rape. And I said, well, do you feel like you need to call the police and have them locked in jail?
Yeah, just a little toxic, Lori.
They just have this need to want sex. And so they start having sex with their wives. Now at this point, the wife can either say, "Honey, I'm just really tired. How about in the morning?" Or go along with it and have a great time. Sometimes those are the best times, you know?
Transformed wife, more like transform your shitty views on life, am I right? There's nobody over there. Like, could you imagine being the type of person who is like, "My wife really doesn't want to have sex tonight, but it's her obligation, so..."
Saddle up, partner.
What you want to do in your marriage, what works for you, that's fine. But when you start teaching others that this is the way it's supposed to be, that's when the problems come in. One of my favorite things about this channel is the inconsistencies. There's like a block where it's about 20 cooking videos in a row, where it's like delicious sardines. And then the next video is women going topless. She's got videos about how women should act. She has videos about politics, which you can probably guess which side of the aisle she's on. And she has videos about the pandemic.
So a lot of people don't want to open up the country and have people go back to work because they don't want to kill grandma. We can see the wicked forces, that it's a spiritual warfare in our country. It's definitely a spiritual warfare between good and evil. We could see that so clearly. We have been for the last 4 years, so clearly. The wickedness that was taking place in our nation before this lockdown was just horrific. But then during this lockdown, I've heard of things that are taking place that are being uncovered.
Spiritual warfare, my favorite. It's one of the biggest red flags that you can have, in my opinion. When someone starts talking about spiritual warfare, run. I hear this a lot from Christians lately. You can see all the evil in the world. Clearly, we're getting close to the end. Just look at all the evil things happening in the world. You realize that a couple hundred years ago, we could legally own other people as property, right? I mean, wasn't that a little bit worse? She just fits the mold of older lady at church so well, so perfectly. What do you think her takes are on the Super Bowl halftime shows? Or as she calls it, the Super Bowl halftime seduction.
J-Lo was on stage. And so I saw a brief couple of seconds of what she was doing. And I knew J-Lo would be very raunchy because I quit watching American Idol years ago when she was on it because of the way she dressed and the way she danced. Very, very, very seductive. She's a seductress, you know.
Typical. A woman dancing around at halftime of the Super Bowl, and she's a seductress. Possibly my favorite video title on her channel is this one. I don't really have anything to add about that. We interrupt this video to thank all the patrons of this channel. Big thanks to Anthony Guthrie, John L., and Todd, and all of my other patrons. If you want to support this channel, you can do so at patreon.com/JesusUnfollower. And now back to the cringe.
But I still would not encourage a woman who is being physically abused by her husband to get a divorce.
This is the danger of when you're talking about a marriage contract that God has signed off on. It's like they enter into it thinking that divorce is not an option. So it's like, yeah, I might as well stay with him. And if it's really awful and he puts me through a lot of shit, then so be it. He's my husband. He's my obligation.
Always, if there's physical abuse, a woman always needs to seek the authorities as soon as possible and get help. She should never be physically abused by her husband, ever.
I am glad that she says that if there's abuse, then a woman should always contact the authorities, of course. But it goes beyond that. A woman or a man shouldn't feel obligated to stay with their partner if it's not working out. For whatever reason that is, you shouldn't feel obligated to stay with them.
I know women who are in difficult marriages and their eyes are on eternity, on their husband's eternal soul, and they know that any suffering they're going through is worth it in order for their husbands to know Jesus and spend eternity with him.
Yikes. That's one of the most dangerous things that I've heard Lori say in any of these videos, that any suffering a woman goes through is worth it because of her husband's eternal soul being at stake. She's literally telling women to suffer for the sake of their husband. Kick him out and let that motherfucker worry about his own soul. I'd love to see the transformed wife go on Dr. Phil. Terrible Dr. Phil impression in 3, 2, 1. You're encouraging women suffering for the sake of their husbands' eternal souls. You're telling women to do what for their husbands? What on earth makes you think that's okay? SNL, if you're watching, I'm available. Just kidding. I know that sucked. She also has this really easygoing video called Unplanned Pregnancy is a Satanic Lie.
When two people are having sexual relationships, the consequences of that can always be a pregnancy. It's not unplanned. Part of sexual relationships, the consequence of sexual relationships is a pregnancy. So no baby is a surprise. No baby is truly unplanned.
Lori, consequences are not plans. But you knew that, didn't you? If I'm driving from point A to point B and I get in an accident, between there, I didn't plan on that happening, but it's a consequence of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Unplanned pregnancy, and then with that, the term Planned Parenthood are satanic terms.
Unplanned pregnancy and Planned Parenthood are satanic terms. God forbid that people want to take a little bit of control of their life and plan their life, plan pregnancies. Why is that satanic? People like Lori would rather there be millions more children in foster homes than people be able to plan out their own families. Look, people are free to live their lives however they want, but I just feel like a lot of the stuff that she teaches is harmful, especially to women. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up and remember to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Transformed wife, more like transform your shitty views. Am I right? No? Pretend fist bump to somebody who's not here?